Yeah, yeah, CS TV Chatterjee sir and CS Tarun Chatterjee, speakers of the day, my dear members and students, a very lovely good morning to all of you. ICSI is really grateful to both the speakers for giving their kind consent for this webinar. Me, as a chairman of the PCS committee and under the guidance of our president, Devendra Deshpandeji, has taken so many initiatives for the benefits of the members. One of them is to unlock the opportunities in MSME sector. Friends, why not we company secretary can provide the services to business house in 360-degree model? We can also do arranging business finance, business planning, tax planning, regulatory compliance, providing them hand-holding services like a brother. It will not only boost the particular MSME, it will boost the MSME sector and in result the economy of the country. MSME will also play a vital role to the 5 trillion economy dream of our Prime Minister Modi ji. Modi ji always speaks about vocal for local. And he always stress to develop the MSMEs, to develop the micros, to develop the small industries. Because he also feel that without development of the small scale industries, without development of the villages, we India cannot develop ourselves in the true picture. Friends, today we have two speakers. One is Mr. TV Chatterjee. Mr. Chatterjee has vast experience of more than 40 years, mainly in the areas of corporate law, FEMA, MSME, indirect and direct tax management, fund management, foreign trade policy insurance, and risk management. Mr. Chatterjee is a visiting faculty of Calcutta University, MDI, Murshidabad, IIFT, IISWBM, XLRI Jamshedpur, IIMC, and other sister industries. He is also a member of the CII Economic Affairs and Financial Sector Subcommittee for the Eastern Region, and he is chairman of Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries Indirect Tax Committee. Chatterjee sir, we ICSI welcome you sir in this webinar. Our next speaker is Mr. Tarun Chatterjee. Mr. Tarun Chatterjee has vast experience of practice of more than 25 years in indirect taxation, litigation practice, and in the area of MSME. He regularly appears before the High Courts, CSAT, and all over the India. He is member of Calcutta High Court Bar Association and member of Customs, Excise, and Service Tax Bar Association. And today, Mr. TV Chatterjee will speak first for a period of about 30 to 45 minutes. Then Mr. Tarun Chatterjee will address us. And after addressing both the members, our students can ask so many questions with the speakers, and our speakers will kind enough to answer all the queries. So I request you, TV Chatterjee sir, to please address us, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Sardeep. Honorable Chairman of this session, and also my learned colleague, Tarun Chatterjee, is my professional friends, my colleague in my areas of operations, and students, members, etc. Good morning to all of you. It is a great opportunity for me to express my views on this very relevant subject. I was a regular speaker till 2015 or 2016, I cannot remember, and a regular teacher at least for 3 decades in our institute. I consider my institute is a temple and not an institute. So 4 or 5 years there was a gap because I was personally engaged in various other activities. But again, I am really feeling extremely happy to come back, and I will try to strengthen the hands of my members, my colleagues, my council members in the areas of knowledge expansion. Knowledge is to share and not to store. That is what we have learned in our organizations. Friends, this subject is very, very important. I will basically try to convince you. I'm using the word convincing, not try to explain you. I will try to convince you as to why you should take a 360-degree approach in servicing the MSME segment. Your job is not only confined in the promotions, formations of the company. Your job will be a 360-degree support. I will come in each and every case. Friends, what I will tell you, I am not telling you from any book. What I am telling you, which I have practiced in the last 40 years. Maybe I was working in a very large company, but as a company secretary, we expanded like anything in our areas. And today, since I have my own professional firms and also in the YouTube and so many publications, we are absolutely up to date as to how a company secretary can extend its hands. Secretarial part, I am not coming. This is our bread and butter job. We cannot ignore it. We have to comply the SEBI norms. We have to comply the corporate laws, LLP laws, etc. Friends, MSME is a very significant factor. In the country, there are around 7.5 to 8 crores MSMEs. 7.5 to 8 crores. Around 80 million SMEs are in India. In terms of number, very high. But in terms of value, it is just 29% of the GDP. If I ask you what is the GDP of the country, then you must know the GDP of the country is approximately $3.5 trillion. $3.5 trillion. That means around 275 to 280 lakh crores. You must know the figure. $3.5 trillion, which value is into 80, comes to around 275 to 280 lakh crores, not 280 crores, 280 lakh crores. And 280 lakh crores, 29% is contributed by the MSME. You can understand 275 lakh crores, 30% approximately. Around 80 lakh crores only MSME. 80 lakh crores contributes by MSME in the country's GDP. And how many people are employed? Around 12 crore people are employed. These figures are very important. They contribute 80 lakh crores and they employ 12 crore people. Now, if you take average 5% in a family, that approximately 60 crores people live or their livelihood depends on MSME. What is your total population? 135 to 140 crores. That means you understand now that MSME is a very, very significant area. The country cannot reach to $5 trillion without expanding the MSME. This is very important statistical information. Friends, it is always my suggestions, always to have some statistics. Do not to take any lesson on a superficial manner. If anybody says, no, MSME contributes huge, what huge? It contributes 29% of the GDP and it employs 12 crore people. This is a very, very important information. And if you have consider 4 to 5% live in per family, it is a matter of around 50 to 60 crores people livelihood depends. Now, I am just going to the subject. As a company secretary, how you can expand your activities. Friends, since I am a core GST person and in touch with GST since 2009, I'll tell you, in our country, there is a registered taxpayer is 1 crore 25 lakh. Very important information. You will not get in any Google search. 1.25 crore registered taxpayers. And you know, 80% of them have a turnover less than 1 crore 50. I know you will not believe. 1 crore 25 lakh is the registered taxpayer and average turnover 1.5 crores to the extent of 80%. That means you understand the most of the GST taxpayers are under MSME. So therefore you have a huge scope to expand. Unfortunately, these MSMEs are not organized. Somewhere it is proprietorship, partnership, LLP, company, etc. So you as a professional, you can guide them in every areas by which you can add your values in the MSME and you can establish yourself not as a compliance officer, but as a true partner in the business functions. Now, whenever any company comes to you for registration, what you normally do? You ask him, friends, what you want me to do? Well, sir, I want to start a business. This area business I know, tell me. Then you normally in 90% cases you will say, sir, okay, I will get you a registration, company registration, private limited company or public limited company. But do you know that in the formation of the company secretary can give a tremendous amount of help to the company. It is not matter. You have, before you tell or before you suggest, whether it is a company, whether it will be LLP, whether it will be a trust, whether it will be a one-man company, whether it will be a partnership business, whether it will be private limited, you have to analyze and find out which one is best. And then you explain, friends, according to me, your format will be say XLLP or it will be say private limited company. Before doing that, before reviewing, just because company has said you get me a registration, normally I can tell you 99% cases professionals do not go to that. Once they ask, okay sir, within 15 days I'll get you the registration. What registration? Now I'll tell you, explaining why this analysis is very important for all of you. And I request Institute to record these deliberations and go for continuous publications so that our students, our friends, our colleagues understand. Suppose you want to, somebody has told you, yes sir, मेरे को एक तो company registration करा दीजिए. You have got the registrations. without going to that. If it comes to me, I will ask him, friends, okay, I am getting your company registration, but tell me what about the profit? Would you like to distribute the profit to your shareholders? नहीं सर, मेरा प्रॉफिट मेरा कंपनी में रहेगा और क्या है. Another client has come like Torun. He said, no sir, I'll make the profit and I must distribute to my shareholders. You see, two content. One is family person, another is quite realistic to go for public. Sir, if I don't declare dividend, market may not take a very positive note. So intention is different. Now a company, if it is registered, the normal applicable rate of tax is 22%. Provided he does not distribute the dividend. But if it is a family company, nobody distributes dividend. There is no provisions in the Companies Act to declare compulsory dividend. So your tax rate is 22%. But Torun wants, no, I must declare dividend. In that case, company formation may not be the right way. Because company has to pay tax 22%. And when the dividend is distributed again to the shareholder, that dividend will also be taxed in the hands of the shareholder. So effective tax rate could be around 50%. That means two companies are getting registered. One wants to declare dividend continuously. His formation will be little different. Whereas a person who wants to form a company would like to take the advantage of the limited liability and doesn't want to distribute dividend, for them, private limited or public limited company could be very helpful. Many companies, where they are, sir, मेरे को एक LLP करा दीजिए, because LLP does not require much compliance. But you know the LLP rate of tax is how much? LLP rate of tax is 30% plus surcharge. So if you incorporated a private limited company, the applicable rate is 22%. Whereas if you incorporate a LLP, the applicable rate is 30% plus surcharge. So now you understand that you have to take the decision before implementation, before going for incorporation. Instead of reviewing this area, instead of what we say, we must take the interview. Sir, aapka kya intention hai? Once you are convinced, then you will select whether it will be individual. Suppose at the same time, if there is a person, he wants to run his business himself, then you should go for a proprietorship business. Don't get it registered under the Companies Act, because the rate of interest, rate of tax in proprietor is just starting after 2,50,000, starting with 5, 10, 15, all these slabs. So these are the three things before selecting a particular way of promoting the company. You must see which one is better. But lot of startups are coming. Suppose I have come to you as a MSME and said, sir, mere ko startup bana dijiye. Why will you take the advantage of the limited company? Then you should not go for LLP. Then you should not go for a partnership. Then you should not go for a other thing other than a corporate, because in a startup, ultimately you have to offer shares. Once the startup is set up, technology is marketed, technology is completely established. What startups do? They do not keep quiet. They always get the financer. Bhai, mero 25% le lo, 1 billion, 2 billion like by Jews and others. So if you are not incorporated as a company, how will you shares? How will you sell shares? They are foreign companies. They can only buy shares in a FDI format. They cannot put money in a private limited, in a partnership business or an individual company. So friends, you now understand that at the time of incorporation, either as a company or a LLP, you have to be very sure that this particular formation is suitable. As I have told you, 99% of the MSMEs are unorganized. Who can help them? In a big corporate, company secretaries, CFOs, managing directors, they are all intelligent, educated, but you have 8 crore MSMEs. Their friend, philosopher will be company secretary. Why company secretary? Because he initiates the incorporation, whether it is an LLP. So he can take the job immediately. Sir, balaiye, boliye. I'll give an example. Few days back, one MSME had come to me. He said, sir, I am not getting GST refund. Just trying to understand. I found he is eligible to get refund under inverted duty, but there are some legal issues. Then I asked him, I found 90% of his transactions are exports. I said, friends, do you take the advance license to import? नहीं sir, हमको तो मालूम नहीं है. Have you imported capital goods? Well, yes, sir. For manufacturing, have you paid the full duty? Yes, sir. I said, you know, you are exporting 90% of your product. You are eligible to import capital goods without payment of any duty. So you understand that who can join hands? You have to join hands. These 8 crore number wise, it is very big. But if they have to expand their business, they need qualified people like you. And you can expand provided you are also looking into these areas. So, 2 types things I have told you. One, incorporation stage. It is a great help. Mind that once you incorporate a company, you cannot change it. No. I go to LLP. Acha, LLP se company kara do. Company kara se do. At the initial time, the initial stage, you have to do. Third area is the capital. Today, capitals can be leveraged and can be FDI also. Now, MSMEs are now permitted to bring FDIs. But before bringing FDIs, you as a company secretary should know whether there is any sectoral limit. You know, as per FDI policy, the FDI is allowed mostly in all cases, but in certain cases, there is a sectoral limit, 74%, 26%, 49%. In that case, you have to see whether you are under OGL, Open General. There is no sectoral limit, but still you have to know what is to comply for FDI. If money comes by way of transfer, it is not enough. Although it is under automatic approval route, but you have to comply certain RBI regulations. Before money comes, you have certain RBI regulations. Once money comes in the form of capital, you have another regulations after allotment. If you do not comply the RBI regulations, mind that in the books of the government of India, your fund is not to be considered as FDI, and it will not be acknowledged as a debt of the country. This part you have to understand, the capital account and current account. When there is a FDI comes to the country, it is an asset or liability. When FDI comes to the country, whether it is an asset or liability to the country, my dad, you prepare the balance sheet of the company. Do you know the country also prepares its balance sheet? And in the balance sheet, there are two types of transactions, current account and capital account. When FDI comes to India, it is considered as liability to the country because the FDI can close the factory and remit the money back to their own country. It is all repatriation basis. So therefore, if you receive any foreign currency from any company in the form of capital, in that case, you have to take cognizance of the RBI regulations. Similarly, now MSME are also permitted to borrow money through external commercial borrowing. I am not talking about the Indian banks. This everybody knows. You go to the bank will say, yes, you come to the Mudra Bank and all these things. These are all old discussions. I am trying to discuss which are the new one and where is the value additions. Now, if there is a startup and it is under MSME, you can organize external commercial borrowing. But why should you go for external commercial borrowing? Because external commercial borrowing rate of interest is very less. I am not talking for the last 6 months, 7 months. It is totally different structure today. But the average rate of interest was between 1 to 2% in dollar or euro, all these things. And if you would take the hedging cost of around 2%, so your effective rate of interest used to be around 4 to 4.5% maximum, against 8 or 9% prevailing in the market, domestic market. So, if you are an energetic company, startup company with good R&D, you can also search for external commercial borrowing. And for ECB, there are certain compliances. You have to take the key number from the RBI, and in that key, the remittance has to come. Whenever any money comes to the country by your foreign exchange, in the form of ECB, it is a loan to the country. When we calculate total GDP, debt to GDP, in the debt we consider the ECB part, although it is taken by the private people, but it is country's liability. So therefore, any transactions, whether capital account or current account, you have always to take compliance of the RBI. So this area regarding the capital in and capital out, ECB, that is loan, many companies are taking, mostly all big companies are taking ECB on a regular basis. If you see today's paper, yesterday HDFC has taken 1.5 billion US dollar under ECB. Please understand this. So previously it was confined only in the big companies. Now government has understood that there is a need to reduce the interest rate to make the product attractive to the foreigners. They said, okay, if you want, you can take the foreign loan. But in which format? External commercial borrowing format. For that, the CAs can play a most vital role. Now, I have already explained the foreign trade matter. You have to come out slowly from the compliance part. Compliance part is always there. It is our bread and butter. But we have to go further. Now, in a foreign trade, that means if that particular MSME, now you know what is the total contribution of MSME in exports. You'll be surprised to know India's export is around $400 billion. $400 billion. And import is approximately $600 billion. That means there is a gap of $200 billion trade deficit. I'm telling you in the lower side, because last month the trade deficit was $30 billion. So if you average it, it comes to 360, but not that, it will come down. But out of $400 billion exports, MSME contributes 50%, which means MSME does export to the extent of $200 billion. But how can you help as a professional? You must explain the various benefits or ways to make the product cheaper. How can you import raw materials without payment of any duty? If it is meant for exports, no duty is there. How can you import capital goods without payment of any duty? And you can still sell the manufactured products both in India as well as abroad. These are the flexibilities given by the government. It doesn't mean if you import a capital goods under EPCG scheme, you have to only use that capital goods for the purpose of manufacturing exported goods. You can equally use this for your domestic market. As a result, you are subsidizing the cost both in the domestic segment as well as export segments. So, as a company secretary, 2015-2020 foreign trade policy, it is still continuing, although it was supposed to come new policy 2025 in the month of April, but due to Corona and other problems, the new policy has not yet come. So I think within another 1 or 2 months, foreign trade policy 2025 will come. Please try to understand, and this policy is mostly for the MSME. Even service is now considered under MSME. Service exports are also subject to several incentives, several benefits, which you can explain to our MSME so that they are competitive, and India is aspiring. Today, India's service export is $250 billion. India's trade export is $400 billion. And we are expecting this year, 22-23, we should achieve $300 billion in service exports. And mind that in service export and goods exports, 50% is contributed by the MSME. So you can understand, sky is the limit for company secretaries to expand their areas of business apart from the compliance and legal issues. Now, in a GST also, company secretaries can play a very significant role. It is not meant at all for the qualified accountants, whether chartered accountants or cost accountant. I know there are many company secretaries are doing extremely well in the GST, like Torun Chatterjee and others, where there is no limitations for appearance before the appellate authority or adjudications authority. So in the GST also, you can expand your business. And the advantages of a company secretary, what I try to encash, that you are allowed to be in the meeting of the company. So chairman and other board of directors, they always want a good educated person always to guide them. So you are the only person who is allowed to enter other than directors. So you can guide them in capital gain, you can guide them in M&A, you can guide them in tax simplifications, You can guide them in the exports area. You can guide them how to import. Now I will tell you, free trade agreement. I am requesting Sandeep to have more and more seminars on this area, like free trade agreement, preferential trade agreement. You know that India, Australia executed a free trade agreement. India, UAE has executed a free trade agreement. Now you are importing materials. If you import materials from Dubai, if you import materials from Australia, instead of from China and others, you get a duty benefit. Similarly, when you export materials, there also those materials will be free from duty, so you can sell it. So you see what is your company's product stage and find out. Now India, UK free trade agreement is going, and India, European Union is also free trade agreement. So India will have 4 free trade agreements with European Union, with UK, Australia already executed, and UAE already executed. Now see, I have told you 50% of the exports and imports are made from the small scale sector, MSME. Now you try, suppose you are importing materials from Canada. Same materials are available in Australia. Now can you understand? If the material comes from Canada to India, it will attract 10 to 12% custom duty. If the material comes from Australia, it will come 0 rate. So you can reduce your input cost. At the same time, you can also attract your product, if the importers in the foreign country, in those 4 areas, is please buy our product, because when I send it to you, you have not to pay any duty. So it is much cheaper. So therefore, in a free trade agreement, preferential trade agreement is very, very important to understand. Friends, there are many areas where these are not complicated. Namesake, it's very big name, but in my YouTube, you will get it regularly about these updations, and it's a very easy thing. And there you can add a value. And then only once you add a value, like I will tell you, the new wage code has come, 2019. All of you must be knowing. In the new code, one of the main conditions is that your basic pay has to be minimum 50% of the total payment. Many companies, what they do, they show a very small amount of basic pay. And 80% or 70% of the payments are shown under various heads. Because if basic pay is small, the provident fund contribution, pension, gratuity, etc. will be less. Now, new wage code has come 2019. It was supposed to be implemented from 1st July 2022, but it has been deferred for another 1 or 2 months. And as per this new wage bill, the 50%, if you get 1 lakh rupees, even if you do not pay 50% basic salary, but as per law, it will be considered 50,000 is your basic pay. Now, therefore, every company's salary structure has to be restructured in the line of the wage code. Employer doesn't know. Employer doesn't know what will consider in the 50%, what will not consider 50%. There are so many provisions. But if we go through the wage code, and it is applicable for everybody, including the shop. It is not applicable only for registered company having a turnover of 500 crores, 200 crores, all companies, whether MSME or it is a large companies. So you understand that every company has to restructure its remuneration structure. We are doing for many companies here in Kolkata and Delhi, that this is our pay structure, sir. Please advise how we'll do that to comply the law. And there are certain certifications by certain authorities that whether you are complying or not. PF law is going to be changed, wherein the basic definition, basic pay definition is going to be changed. All these very important areas are to be known by you. And these are not at all a very complicated area. It can be understood. Those who wants to understand more about the wage bill, you can visit my YouTube channel on New Wage Code 2019, and we have given an example how you, if this is the present position, what will be your future position. Friends, there are many ways we can. I am talking about corporate compliance is our bread and butter. Company formation is our bread and butter. NCLT is our bread and butter, but not all the times. And there are other legal compliances. Like, I know since my daughter stays outside India, they are separate.
Sir, you are on mute, sir. To be Chatterjee, sir, you are on mute. Please.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, line got disconnected.
Yeah.
So, friends, what I wanted to tell you, that there are many areas. We have learned everything in our institute. We have learned MRTP, we have learned Companies Act, we have learned everything. And if we can expand in these areas, like formation, before formation, you must add value. Don't go because somebody wanted some registration tomorrow. Then GST related matter, foreign trade matter is a very big area. Without foreign trade assistance, you cannot expand. Employee related, HR area, what also I have explained to you, the pension deed, gratuity deed, these are very, very important. Litigation is our main area that we have to handle it. And these are the ways. Banking areas are also there. Friends, time is limited. I have tried to explain you which are the major areas apart from the capital formations and expansion of the capital. I have explained you how the capital is to be brought, how the ECB is to be brought, how the negotiation takes place. Even we talk about 1 point, 2 point interest differences. So these are the foreign exchange is a very important area. So these are the basic areas I will suggest for our all friends, members to really think, and I also request Institute to come for many such workshops, seminars, so that knowledge gives you lot of conviction. I have seen if you have a knowledge, you can take another job also, even if it is a little complicated. So knowledge is to expand, and you have to update also. These are all challenges, but you have a huge amount of scope for your personal development. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. So thank you, Sandeep, for giving me the opportunity to discuss such a beautiful subject. And I am available to the Institute, and I will certainly, I always consider my Institute as a temple. I have whatever I have got only because of the Institute, nothing else. I started my company secretary first. So thereafter, all those other qualification has come. So it is my mother, it is my father, it is my temple. So I am at their call. So thank you very much. And Thank you, Torun, for your patient hearing, but I have completed within the due time. I have covered all the one. Thank you very much. If you have any issues, any question, whether it's MSME, tax, income tax, excise, custom, foreign exchange, you are most welcome. My mail ID is tb.chatterjee@yahoo.co.in, and also you can contact our institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TV Chatterjee sir. And we will take all the questions after the address of Tarun sir. And sir, as TV Chatterjee sir mentioned that we ICSI should come out with more workshop and seminars. So just to update you, sir, just like a pilot project, we ICSI been approaching to all the state heads of MSME to connect with our practicing company secretary or company secretary in employment. And in this era, we have already in talk with our West Bengal government. We already met an MOU to be signed in this month. We already met the Chief Minister of Assam, and talks are going on. I have already met the Principal Secretary MSME of Odisha. Talks are going on. And in due course, in due time, in next 1 or 2 months, our planning is that ICSI will meet all the MSME heads of all the states. And yes, sir. And just to keep on the address of TV Chatterjee, sir, just I am surprised to know that we MSME are contributing 29% of the MSME, and we are generating that 12 crore jobs, and we are also in part of export of 50%. TV Chatterjee, sir, also mentioned that CS is not only in employment, but also a best planner, best friend of MSME, who help MSME in all area, like capital generation. TV Chatterjee sir also mentioned that capital generation can be in India, outside India, in the form of ECB. Chatterjee sir also mentioned that MSME planning can be done from the initial stage of partnership firm, then LLP, then company, then limited company, then listed company, MSME listed, and so on. So thank you so much, TV Chatterjee sir, for your guidance to us, to our members, to our students. Now, I would like to request Tarun Chatterjee ji to please address us, sir. Over to you, sir. Tarun ji.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, respected Chairman Sandeep and all the member and participants. Today's topic, MSME opportunity for company secretaries. The topic is an emerging one and very significant. It is significant to the practicing company secretary. It is very much significant to the company secretary, since this sector is growing fast, and the dream of our Prime Minister, that $5 trillion economy, is not possible unless the MSME participate in the economic growth at large. Now the question, the growth and opportunities of company secretaries in the field of MSME, the growth and opportunity of MSME sector in Indian economy and generating employment is undisputed fact for last 50 years. During last 50 years, these sectors have largely contributed to the economic growth as well as employment generation. Now, first time in 2006, government came up with a legislation called Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act. So from the preambles of the Act, it is very clear that the objective of the government is development of this sector. This MSME Act is not like Companies Act, SEBI Act, so and so forth. All these acts are for regulation purpose, whereas MSME Act is for the purpose of development. for the purpose of development. Now, government through various schemes give various opportunities, benefits to the MSME sector. In 2022-23, there are 18 schemes is provided by the government for different player in the MSME sector. Different player of the MSME sector. Now, this area of opportunity is something different from our traditional role. Under the Companies Act or SEBI Act, we are the concise keeper and governance professional. Whereas under the MSME Act, the role of the company secretary is more akin to the business consultant or facilitator, and another role is as litigation professional. Now, what would be the role of practicing company secretary in MSME sector? Now, the first role of the company secretaries in practice is to convince the MSME entrepreneurs. He or she may be micro, transited to small, and then to medium. Now, all the benefits available under the MSME Act is so long the unit is MSME, and it is only available to the registered MSME, not an unregistered MSME. So, practicing company secretary should advise all unregistered MSMEs why they should take registration and what are the benefits available to them if they are registered MSME under the MSME Act, and what benefit they can take by availing various schemes offered by the Ministry of MSME. Now, this is, I am very, sorry to say, substantial portion of the MSME entrepreneur, they are unregistered due to the lack of knowledge, due to the information, and they are very much knowledgeable so far their business is concerned. It may be manufacturing, it may be selling, it may be procurement, but they are not aware that if they are not registered under MSME, they will not get the benefit of the scheme. Now, already I have told that during 2022-23, there are 18 beneficial schemes. The MSME Act as well, all the schemes are beneficial. It is not a regulatory. So, it is not like the Companies Act or SEBI Act that company secretary's opportunity is for secretarial audit, certification, filing of forms, so and so forth. Here, company secretary's role will be as a business consultant or facilitator who act as a bridge between the entrepreneur and the government and the bank and the other regulator. That if you take registration under MSME, see, your payment is protected. If you are registered as an MSME, certain portion of your sale is protected because under the Act itself, all these protection are available only to the registered MSME, not an unregistered MSME. You may be MSME, you are fulfilling all the conditions, but since you are not registered, MSME Act 2006 will not be applicable to you. You cannot accept, you cannot get benefit of any scheme. In order to avail the benefit of the scheme as well as the protection or benefit of the Act, you have to be registered. So, first role of the practicing company secretary should be advise them for taking registration, and on registration, what are the benefit available to them? This is the first. Then also practicing company secretary is in a position to act as a bridge in between the bank and the MSME unit, in between the government and the MSME unit. Now already Mr. Chatterjee has described in detail. I will not touch on all those areas. I will only touch those areas where practicing company can contribute to this sector. So first, company secretary in practice can convince them that registration is required. If you take the registration, you will get this benefit. And on behalf of them, the practicing company secretary should make application for registration. Now, once the unit is registered as MSME, there is no such compliance like Companies Act, that mandatory filing of annual report, director's report, so and so forth. But under the MSME Act, then the role of the company secretary comes that in order to avail, see, these are the scheme offered by the Ministry of MSME. So in order to avail this scheme, you have to do this. Now, one important point I will discuss, that major benefit provided under the MSME Act is purchaser has to pay to the MSME unit within 45 days. Why this provision? This provision is there just to keep the liquidity position intact of the MSME holder. So the large corporate, the government department, they cannot hold MSME payment more than 45 days. Now here the role of the company secretary in practice come into the picture. While offering the sale by MSME unit, the offer letter, the offer of sale should be given very carefully. The drafting or content of the invoice, because as per Act, if MSME unit who is not aware of the provision, they will generally cut and paste the terms and conditions from the other invoices, which are not at all applicable. Say for example, in case of a MSME, it is mandatory to make payment within 45 days. So if your invoice content the payment terms more than 45 days, 3 months or 6 months, that means you are diluting your statutory right. So practicing company secretary should advise to them that, see, in your invoice, the following terms and conditions should be contained. Number 1, payment term for within 45 days. Number 2, if default is made, interest shall be charged as per provision of section 18 of the MSME Act, not any amount. Because section 18 provides that in case of a default by the purchaser, MSME unit is entitled to get interest at 3 times of the prescribed rate of the RBI. So these are the area from drafting of offer of sale of goods or service, drafting of invoice. Now after dispatch of the goods, the MSME unit shall obtain receipt of the goods or services or acknowledgement of the goods and services to avoid future litigation of payments. Now, the 2 roles of the practicing company secretary, 1 role to act as a business consultant and facilitator, which is largely covered by my Guruji, Timir Chatterjee sir. Now I will discuss some other aspects. So one is business consultant and facilitator. Another is litigation professional. Litigation professional, since MSME is also in commercial operation, doing business transaction, in case of a commercial operation and business transaction, dispute is inevitable. Nobody can avoid dispute. Dispute will come. Even in that area, as a litigation professional, practicing company secretary has a greater role to play. Now, what kind of litigation generally emerged in case of a MSME unit? The litigation with respect to MSME unit is only with respect to payment, either non-payment by the purchaser or delayed payment by the purchaser. These are the two types of litigation. Now, I will share some statistics with you, particularly with respect to litigation. Now, litigation mechanism procedures, MSME, Ministry of MSME formed a council called MSME Facilitation Council. MSME Facilitation Council. So, in case you are not getting payment from the purchaser within 45 days or within a reasonable time, your first step as a litigation professional come into the picture, that you have to make an online application to the council. On receipt of that application, it is a standardized application. You have to give the details of the offer, the details of the purchase order, the details of the invoice, the details regarding supply of the goods or service. Along with your application, online you submit all these documents. Immediately, within a 2 or 3 days time, MSME Council will send a notice to the buyer that this complaint has been received. You are requested to pay within 15 days or 30 days. Now, if the buyer do not pay within that 15 or 30 days time, then you have to make a formal written application before the council. Now, on receipt of this application, council will try to make a conciliation process by which mutually the payment dispute will be resolved. Now, both here, the practicing company secretary first can draft the application, can file the application on behalf of the MSME unit, can appear before the council, can make oral submission and written submission at the time of reconciliation meetings, and thereafter either it will be mutually settled, or if there is no mutual settlement is there, council will transfer this application to the tribunal for decide to the MSME arbitration tribunal, and MSME appeal MSME tribunal will decide following the procedures of Arbitration and Reconciliation Act 1996. Now, here again, the role of company secretaries come into the picture. Now, these applications, practicing company secretaries shall prepared, shall submit, appeared before the arbitrator, make written submission, make oral argument, and thereafter arbitral award will be passed. Now, award can be in favor of the MSME applicant or against the MSME applicant, and after, if this award is passed within the time allotted, the purchaser has to pay. If purchaser do not pay, then or purchaser can make an appeal against this award before the Metropolitan Magistrate or High Court. So the role of the company secretary is started from the date of application to the council until the arbitration tribunal, MSME arbitration tribunal. Because in court, practicing company secretary cannot appear, but in the reconciliation council or the tribunal, the practicing company secretary can appear. Now I will share some, these data with you, which are very vital. And you can, by analyzing the data, understand how this area is also growing, where practicing company secretary can largely participate and help. As on today, application under section 18 filed before the council is 1,88,816. You see the number of application under section 18, and that is largely either non-payment or non-payment within due date. Now, out of that, only 11,546, 11,456 has been mutually decided by the buyer and seller at the council. So, on making application, when the notice is issued by the council, other side came and matter is amicably settled. Now, apart from that, the application rejected by the council is 27,723. So, a huge number of application under section 18 is rejected. This rejection may be on merit, may be on technical ground. So, whether it is on merit or it is on technical ground, if these MSME unit engaged practicing company secretary as their professional to represent the case or make application, there is a great role of the practicing company secretary. And you see the numbers. The numbers of application is 1,18,816. Out of that, only 11,456 is settled mutually. Rest are gone to the tribunal. So it is a vast opportunity. It is a endless opportunity for the company secretaries. Though it is little bit of different from the existing practice area. It is different because Companies Act, SEBI Act, all these acts are regulatory act. So here the practicing company secretary over a long period is engaged in secretarial audit, certification, ensuring compliance, this, that. But practice under the MSME Act, because the Act itself suggests it is a development act. It is for the development of that sector. And during last 5 years, Sandeep is correctly said, it is the top priority of the government of India. It is the top priority. So if a particular sector grow, simultaneously the others will also grow. Being a professional, there is enough scope for growing. Now I will share some practical things with you, that how to make application before the MSME tribunal. What are the things to be taken care by the practicing company secretary? Because even till today, only handful company secretaries are appearing in this tribunal or in these areas. Though the institute government is focusing that more and more company secretary, practicing company secretary, they should come into this area. And I am very much confident that we do have everything. We are capable, we have a knowledge, we know the subject, we know the regulatory requirement. Only thing is that we are not coming out of our existing practice. Now I will give some other data which will also be very encouraging for the practicing company secretary. The total number of cases filed before the tribunal, MSME tribunal, How many? 49,336. This figure is from 2017 onwards. Out of that, only 18,764 number cases is disposed of. So balance cases are still pending before the tribunal. So the tribunal, because in case of a MSME, the role of practicing company secretary as a litigation professional, scope is enough, number of cases is more, but the area of litigation is very limited. It is only, area of litigation is very limited, only two issues. One, non-payment, another, payment after delay. Either the purchaser, the big corporate house, the government, the department, so and so forth, they are not ready to pay within 45 days, or they are not paying anything at all. Now, what is the role of the company secretary in such case? How to get the order, tribunal award in favor of the MSME? Because the object of the government is development of this sector, not regulation of this sector. Government is not in any way regulating this sector. There is no legislation which put restriction that as an MSME you have to do this, you cannot do this, you have to do this in this format only, not otherwise. There is no such regulation. As a company secretary, I am telling you, apart from the MSME Act, there are certain other acts which are applicable to MSME too, like Child, Adolescent, Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, the Provident Fund Act. These regulations are applicable. Now, the entrepreneur under this sector, they are master of their own business. They do not need any advice how to carry on the business, where from purchase or where from sale, or what will be the price. They do not need it. They are expertise, and that's why they are the entrepreneur. What they need is that the practicing company secretary should advise them that, see, you should not employ any child which is prohibited under the Act. If threshold limit of employee exceeds, then you please take registration under PF and make regular contribution to PF and ESIC. Now scenario has been changed. Since all these sectors are largely unorganized sector, whereas their contribution towards the economic growth of this country is huge, employment generation is also huge, whereas they are not in a position to keep on employment different professional for giving them the advice or executing the non-core area on behalf of them. And that's why the role of the company secretaries, particularly in practice, come into the picture. And I always suggest, instead of becoming the concise keeper or governance professionals, in case of a MSME, you should become a business consultant or facilitator, which is in line with the government policy. When I am not encouraging to act as a litigation professional, because that is neither the objective of the government nor the objective of the entrepreneur. But it is inevitable, litigation will come. In case of a commercial transaction, nobody can resist it. So far my professional strengths are concerned, it is perfectly in order, because there will be two types of professionals. One who will work in the area of business consultant and facilitator, and another group who will practice in as a litigation professional. Litigation professional. Now, in most of the cases, what is happening, I am telling you, due to the lack of professionalism in this sector, the big corporates or others are taking undue advantage. Undue advantage. And these MSME sector, the entrepreneur belongs to this sector, they are ready to even pay the fees to the professional if they get proper advice. If they get proper business advice and the guidance. A majority portion of the MSME still today, they are not registered. They are not registered at all. And that advantage is taken by the purchaser. So if anybody raise a question regarding these topics, I will say these topics is very much significant. It is an emerging topics. The role of the company secretaries is, there is no limit. Sky is the limit, both in terms of growth, because this sector is the priority sector of the government, and growth for the next 10 years will be unlimited. If this sector, MSME sector grow, there is no doubt the professionals will also be grow who are associated with this sector. Contrary, the large sector, there is a stagnant position. There is a stagnant position in the large sector. So, since the government is offering various beneficial schemes to this sector, which they are unable to avail due to their ignorance, due to their expertise and all these things, practicing company secretary should come into the picture, take the lead role as promoted by the institute also for the benefit of this sector as well as the government, our economic growth. This is for our own interest. One is interest as a professional, another is the interest of the country. Because the interest of the economic growth and employment, since last 5 decades, this is the sector which contribute more than any other sector. Already regarding this contribution of this sector to our GDP, that is 29%, or Mr. Chatterjee has already told that out of 100 registration under GST, 80% belongs to this sector. 80% belongs to this sector. So importance and growth of this sector is unlimited. We being a professional, I would personally request all my members, please explore this area apart from our traditional area. Traditional area is there. That practice we are doing for a long, like as Mr. Chatterjee told, that is our bread and butter. But now it is a high time to come out of bread and butter. Let us adventure or explore some new other area. With this, I will conclude that the limit, that the scope of the practicing company secretary in MSME area is, sky is the limit, subject to one condition, that we have to be proactive. We should act as a business consultant and facilitator. We should convey the various schemes offered by the government. What is the merit of taking registration under MSME, and what are the these statutory right available if you are registered as an MSME. One point I would mention here, which is very pertinent, that whenever if you are working, if any practicing company secretary is working for any MSME, he should advise his client that please write the MSME registration number in your letterhead, in your invoice, in your offer. Because in most of the cases, it is like company's SIN number, that MSME registration will be justified only if your letterhead contains these things. Otherwise, the other will say that this supplier is MSME is not known to me. So this delay. And now that's why the MCA has also put a system in place that how much is due to the MSME you have to mandatorily declare. So the corporates, they are just taking a confirmation. That's all. That whether you are MSME or not, if you are saying I am not MSME, your unpaid amount will not reflected in that statement. So you will be deprived of getting payment within 45 days. So with this, I will share one of my personal experience and facts to all of you. That few years back, rather I will say in 2005, one retired judge of Calcutta High Court came to me for some discussion. After that discussion, the honorable judge asked me, what is your qualification? I say I am a company secretary, associates member of the institute. Then he asked me, what is your area of practice? I say I am practicing in corporate law, because at the initial stage, I was also in corporate laws. Then he said me that why you were not appearing before the death recovery tribunal. Because after retiring from the Calcutta High Court, he was the sitting judge of death recovery tribunal in Calcutta. Then he said that we are looking for, all these tribunals are looking for you like people. We are looking for company secretaries to appear. You can do much more better than the advocates also before the tribunal. And that discussion changed my shape of the career. After that, I started appearing before the CSTAT across the country. So my suggestions to all members, please take this opportunity. MSME sector is growing. It will grow for next 10 years also, because the government priority, top priority area is MSME sector. It has been realized by both the sector itself, the government itself, that economic growth and employment generation can only be done by the MSME. Now they need the proper professionals for guiding them for their development. So with this, I will conclude my speech and I will request Sandeep to please take over. Hello, am I audible, Sandeep?
Sandeep is not audible.
Sandeep, am I audible?
Yeah.
With this, I will conclude.
Okay.
I once again say the MSME sector is the now new opportunities. It is a endless opportunities for the practicing company secretaries. And as you already told that institute is going to sign the MOU. Let me share another fact. Already Government of India, Ministry of MSME has signed several MOU with the other countries for the development of this sector. So it is not only within the boundary of this country, it is also cross-border. So practicing company secretary, good opportunity, endless opportunity. We can take this opportunity, and I will personally suggest all that yes, Companies Act, SEBI Act, other act, all those are our core area, traditional area. Let us explore this area also. With this, I will conclude, Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Tarunji actually mentioned that judge of Calcutta Tribunal is asking for our company secretary profession.
Yes.
And just like it, when we are in conversation with the High Court of Kerala High Court, with the judges of Calcutta High Court, they also mentioned that company secretaries should come to us for mediation purpose and for other purpose.
Yes. Absolutely.
So various high courts are requesting ICSI to please come forward and to serve the high courts in a better way. Tarunji rightly mentioned that all the MSME which are not registered under the MSME Act will not get so many benefits. There are so many benefits of subsidy and payment thereof, this and that. Tarunji also mentioned that
subsidy purchase,
yes, sir.
subsidy purchase, payments.
Yeah. Tarunji also mentioned that PCS should be the business consultant. We should be the bridge between MSME and other includes banks, governments, this and that. Tarunji also very rightly mentioned that scope in MSME is unlimited, and Tarunji and TV Chatterjee sir both mentioned that we should come out from our conventional practice. We should come out of the practice of corporate law only, and we should enter into another areas like MSME. Tarunji mentioned that PCS, practicing company secretary, should be eye, ear, and mind of MSME. We came to know about the MSME Facilitation Center also, sir, where company secretary can appear. We concluding it in a nutshell, sir, that in the 360 degree of practice or in the 360 degree of the service by the company secretary to the MSME, starting from helping the person to start business by formation of the entity, can be partnership firm, can be LLP, can be private limited, public limited, listed, unlisted. Second step can be financial planning of that entity. Third one is filing application for subsidy and others with the various governments. Next is preparation of cash flow and fund flow statement and advising the MSME. Accounting of the MSME, regulatory compliance like income tax return, TDS return, GST, licensing with the governments and banks, then tax planning and future planning of the MSME. So we are discussion of these points. Now, sir,
Sandeep, I will take just one second.
Yeah, please.
Recently, government, Ministry of MSME, is trying to even bring the street hawkers within this act, within the scheme.
Yes, sir.
Street hawkers. So you see the scope. You see the mindset of the government regarding this sector.
Yes. And Tarunji and TV Chatterjee, sir, I have received so many questions from our members. So with your permission, I am asking those questions one by one. The first question from the members are, while considering the employment side, because normally we are discussing during our conversation about the practicing side of the CS. So one question raised by our member that while considering the employment side, can you highlight the opportunities there under for the company secretaries in employment? Tarun sir.
Shadeep, this question is very vital, very vital, and this will change the the mindset of the company secretary who are in employment. Till today, or this as it on today, company secretary means conducting board meeting, conducting AGM, regulatory compliance, and this thing, that thing. Not beyond that. Very few company secretaries are involved in business management or business operation or operational decision. So if one member is joined an MSME sector, maybe micro, maybe small, maybe medium, if he is ready to shoulder all these things, if he is ready to shoulder, no, okay, I will involve myself from business module developing, purchase manual development, to bank finance, availing the scheme of the government, he can do. Here, the role of the company secretary will be next to the entrepreneur. Because in MSME sector, what generally happens? The person who has expertise in that operation, that business, he do everything. An outsider is hired for doing the other services. So a person who is in employment, he can be the second person immediately after the entrepreneur.
Yes, sir.
So scope is unlimited. Yeah. So nobody can say this, deny this fact.
TV Chatterjee, sir, do you like to add something in Secretary sir?
I will tell you, the concept of gig economy is coming in our country. Gig, G-I-G, gig. It has already come in the Europe and other, even in USA. Gig economy is that the concept of appointment, working 10 to 5 is slowly going. Slowly going. What is coming in the gig economy? That you can shoulder the responsibility of few organizations. Suppose you want a cashier. You do not really need cashier for 8 hours. You want for 2 hours. For example, a cashier can work in 3 or 4 organizations and he can work in the independent capacity. I am telling you, this concept is coming within 5 to 10 years. So, as we have all discussed, the opportunities are enormous. And obviously, opportunities are always followed by money. So therefore, maybe 10-5 employment may not grow to that extent. But this gig concept will come because it is a win-win concept, both to the employer as well as the employee. An employee can expand his business and employer can also cut down his cost. But as I totally agree with Torun, that if you want to be a compliant person, obviously the job restrictions are there. MSMEs are not organized. I have been telling from the day one. The professional has to explain that by disclosing the proper profit, you gain more than showing a lesser profit. So this sort of professional attitude has to come. So if we can add values, they cannot appoint a separate taxation manager, secretarial manager, CFO, all these possible, not possible. I have told you 80% of the people's turnover is less than 1 crore 50 lakhs. Actually, through GST, I will explain you can also calculate GDP. I give a lecture on 10th. Through collections, you can tell me. I can tell you exactly what is the GDP going on. Anyway, this 80%, 1 crore 5, this also have come from the GDP details. So you can expect that a person having almost knowledge in certain key areas like wage, tax, is not complicated, it's not complicated, foreign trade. He will be more and more attractive. You have to put your candidature as an attractive person. So if that is there, I don't think job is at all a problem because growth of MSME will further. I have told you it is around 8 crores. Probably after 2 years, you will find it is 10 crores. So you have to keep in mind the gig economy concept, which is already there in other countries. And India is also, you must have seen that all these teachers' appointment, professors' appointment, these are all contractual basis. If you go to any government department, Sandeep,
yes,
you will not find any as such government employee. They are all 8,000, 12,000 and specific period, specific job. This concept will come and we have to be ready, and this is the high time for us to gear up to take this particular challenge.
Yes, sir. So our next question is, most of the members are presiding or having their professional address in the tier 2 or tier 3 cities. So they want to know that what are the future prospect of their practice or their employment in MSME sector in the tier 2 or tier 3 cities.
It put to be on which
First of all, most of the MSMEs are located in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. So I do not think there is any, but if you go to Purulia or if you go to some interior places, that could be a question. But government, I am talking about West Bengal government, at least they have industrial parks at least in 40 or 48 places throughout the various districts. So opportunities will always be there. And as we have said, if you confine yourself only in compliance, opportunities are very limited. So that is the thing. And Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, I am not talking about the West Bengal, there are certain political issues. But other places, you know who houses the maximum number of SME? It is Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is the biggest entrepreneur in the MSME segment. So it is spread there, and it depends on the state which you are looking, like Karnataka, Maharashtra, your Chennai, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat. I don't think Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities will make any difference. And I am telling you, there are many companies, there are many firms who cannot have their separate entity in those Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. What you can do, you can work as their associate. Say, for example, I am giving a PWC. You can work as their associate in those areas, but PWC cannot have their, I'm just taking the name for the purpose of example, they cannot have their physical presence there. So these people, if they can tie up with any big 4 or big 5, anything, and that will be a great opportunity. And it is win-win both for the big firm and also the small.
Yes. Sandeep, I have to add one point.
Yes, sir. Tarunji, please.
See, so far, you know, the scope and opportunities in MSME sector is concerned. If you
in Tier 2 and Tier 3.
It is only in Tier 2 and Tier 3. So my members, my professional colleagues who are there, rather they should be delighted that yes, new opportunity in my own city is coming up. And in most of the district, there is a district office of the MSME, district industrial center, where the MSME office is also located. So this is a good opportunity rather for the Tier 2, Tier 3 city professionals.
Sir, one more question. Kindly highlight whether the practicing company secretary firm be registered as MSME. What are the benefits they are under?
Yes, they are very much entitled to register as an MSME.
And what are the benefits?
Including a shopkeeper. If you are a shopkeeper or if you are a vegetable seller, you can also get yourself registered under MSME. It considers both goods and services.
See, for getting registration under MSME, the practicing company secretaries firm, what maximum benefit they will get? They will get the payment assurance within 45 days. Apart from that, there are other schemes also which is beneficial, which is monetary, you know, these benefits which will also be available to them. Subsidies, lower rate of interest, easy bank finance.
So one last question. What are the skills and what are the infrastructure that can be developed by a practicing company secretary to start practice in the MSME areas?
To whom you are putting this question? First. Is it to sir or is it to me?
First Tarunji, then TV Chatterjee sir for his expert advice. First Tarunji.
My answer to this question is very specific. The only thing is that you invest on your knowledge. Knowledge and dedication. No infrastructure required, nothing. Infrastructure required is your knowledge and your dedication. Your knowledge about the subject, your knowledge about the business module of that entrepreneur, and your dedication. Nothing more, nothing. Because the area of practice is much more simplifier. There is nothing. And I am firmly believe practicing company secretary can do. If I can, they can also. That is my reply. If I can, they can also.
Thank you, sir. TV Chatterjee, sir, would you like to add something?
I totally agree with knowledge and updation. I will add the word updation. This is extremely important. I'm giving an example. Many, you know that packaged commodities are now under GST. You all know there is a lot of hue and cry, Moody, Murki, Khoi, all these things are now under. There is the important notification 2 days back. But many companies have already produced huge number of materials. It is already pre-packed. Rate is already fixed. MRP is already finalized. Now, from 18 July, they have to come out with new product with new MRP because 5% GST has been issued. In this regard, day before yesterday evening, a notification has come. What is my point? What would happen about those materials which are already produced for the next 3 months? These are all packed. Now I am telling you, in case of MSME, if you do not know, if you are not updated, most of the MSMEs are in the packing business. This, dekho, ITC, HUL, they never manufacture. Even they manufacture, they give it to the packer, and these packers are MSME. But you have no knowledge. You have already manufactured 2 months back, 3 months back, for the next 2 months, puja ka, Diwali ka, sab kuch bana liya hai. So this requires updations. That what I need to do about those products. What is the recent notification? To what extent I can use it? Those packaging material which are already manufactured, it is kept in your stock with stating the old MRP, that needs changes. So therefore, as Tarun said, knowledge is very important and knowledge with updations. If you are not updated in our line, your value is 0.
Yes, sir.
Other infrastructure will automatically develop actually. You need people, you need all the, but it does not require any plant and machinery or anything. Even you can, today you can work from your home also. Many people are thinking to totally close the office. So infrastructure wise, knowledge, updations, and your assistant based on your this thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, TV Chatterjee, sir, and thank you, Tarunji, for sparing your time and for guiding us, for sharing your valuable thoughts in the new area of MSME. That and you also mentioned and guided us that we company secretaries should come out of the conventional area and start in the practice of in the MSME sector. You also mentioned that company secretary can be in practice in a MSME, and company secretary can be a guide role in the form of employee also. So thank you, Tarun sir, thank you, TV Chatterjee sir, and thank you, my friends, my members, students, and thank you, ICSI team. Now I would like to request ICSI team to please present online Shahid Ke Beti certificate to TV Chatterjee sir. ICSI team to please. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request our ICSI team to please display Shahid Ke Beti certificate to Tarun Chatterjee, sir. Tarunji.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Thank you to the respected chairman for inviting me as a speaker.
Yes, sir. And hard copy of the certificate will be sent to your address in physical form, sir. And thanks to my ICSI team also for supporting me in conducting this webinar. Thanks to all. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.